My name is Ron Helson. I'm not the president. I'm the executive director.
Sorry.
But, anyway, and I've been fortunate enough to serve in that role for now 20 years. 2013 is our 20th year anniversary for HART Communication Foundation, and it's been a great ride. HART Communication Foundation is really the standards development organization and global support organization for the HART Communication Protocol. HART is an international standard. It's an IEC standard. It's also a European standard, and also soon to be a Chinese national standard. So, just like that's one of our missions in HART Communication Foundation. Not only develop them for use within our organization, but support the international standards effort. We're an organization of 285 member companies from all around the world. We have most are suppliers, automation equipment suppliers, because it's key. What we do is kind of key to helping them implement the HART technology in their products and provide the solutions for customers. But we also have, I'm fortunate to say, some end user companies, and that's a recent development, and we're glad to see it. But basically, any company that's interested in the HART communication technology can join. The HART is is well established as the leading communication technology for process automation. It's probably got the widest range of products and broadest global support amongst manufacturers and largest installed base. We have a full complement of programs to support the technology. Probably the most significant, I think, is our programs to validate the proper implementation and interoperability of products that are using the HART communication technology. So we register products and test them independently. Probably, I think the unique thing for us, what makes us unique, we continue to evolve and improve the HART technology. I mean, it's been around for a number of years. I said 20-year anniversary, but we continue to add new capabilities and as the needs of industry evolve. I mean, instruments are getting smarter. They need to have the capability to get HART is a key pipe to get that information out of the devices and into the system so that value can come to the users. And we do that by basically following two very fundamental guiding principles as we evolve this technology. Number one, make sure to keep it backward compatible. We work very hard not to violate that, so we don't break anything either for the suppliers or the users, so that even products with the newest HART version will work hand in hand with products of the early versions. And number two, assure the interoperability of products so that you can buy a product from vendor A and it'll work with a system for vendor B, and they'll all play together with products from vendor C, D, and E. So key, and while we do that, number one, preserve what we think are key things of HART was try to keep it simple for both the users and suppliers, users to use, suppliers to implement in their products, and keep it easy to use.
Thank you. Glenn?
Good morning. I'm Glenn Schultz with the FDT Group. We're an international standards organization based out of Belgium. Our standard is known as IEC 62453. We're also ISA 103 and a China GB standard. Where we are in the marketplace, unlike all my counterparts here, we are not a network organization. Our role in the industry is to do a couple of things related to all the networks that you heard about today. We are a standard that sits on top of all the networks to provide interoperability of all of those networks on a common platform. And probably what we're best known for is providing a common way to configure, diagnose, prognose, and maintain devices through standardized drivers that the manufacturers ship with their products. So we do that by supporting methods such as standard DD files that you're probably all familiar with. DTMs are another way of doing it. And in the near future, we'll also have packages that will essentially replace what we've known as the DD standard and allow those to configure on an FDT application as well. So what's really trending in our part of the standards industry is one of the things that's really been enabled through our standard. The good news is end users pick best-in-class devices because you can integrate virtually any device from any network by using our standard. But what's really hot in topics these days is the ability to do the advanced diagnostics and prognosis through the DTMs that are installed in an FDT-enabled system. It's by far the most eye-opening thing we see for when end users take a look at the FDT standard, to be able to see extensive advanced network diagnostics, extensive advanced device diagnostics, and so on, all delivered free to you from your manufacturer who supports the FDT standard. You actually, behind the scenes on a couple of presentations that were given this morning, there was really FDT running on many of those applications. And I'll just give you one example I noticed in the discussions where you heard about the ISA 100 wireless gateways running on a Yokogawa gateways over to an Invensys system. The method that worked was Yokogawa supplied DTMs for those gateways that allowed their products from Yokogawa to work on the Invensys system. And that's what our standard does. Best-in-class devices, very advanced diagnostics, and it works with all of the networks that are out there in the industry, 16 different networks.
Thank you, Glenn. Katherine?
Hi, I'm Katherine Voss. I'm the President and Executive Director of ODVA, and thank you all for staying around Thursday to learn about managing standards for field devices. Good job.
Thank you.
And thanks to Jeff Smith for his good story on Ethernet IP. ODVA was founded in 1995. If you start doing a little historical investigation, you'll find there were a number of organizations related to industrial networks that were formed during that period. At that time, the organization was founded for the purpose of promoting DeviceNet as an open standard backed by conformance testing. But since then, our focus has really evolved to be much broader. On a technical basis, we manage 4 different networks: Ethernet IP, DeviceNet, 2 other networks, CompoNet and ControlNet. But the common link between all of those protocols, all those networks, is the protocol which Harry mentioned, called the Common Industrial Protocol, or SIP, which sits on top of that. So from ODVA's membership, which comprises approximately 295 member companies, the common interest and technical framework for that is the Common Industrial Protocol. Around 2000, the membership started collaborating together to develop an Ethernet adaptation of that, which today is realized in Ethernet IP. We manage approximately 15 technical working groups to support the evolution of those technologies. We operate in 2 different spheres, if you will, as an organization. Our primary purpose is as a standards development organization and as a certification body to make sure that products that are built to our specifications, in fact, comply and interoperate in multi-vendor systems. Because our membership is comprised of vendors, we also do a number of industry outreach activities to promote awareness of the technology, interest in adopting it, and also training and plug fests and things like that for vendors and users. Why do these organizations exist? We talk about the need for open standards. The users said they would like to see the vendor community collaborate better. That's one of ODVA's goals, is to try to drive, an esprit de corps that promotes collaboration. And I think that's one of the real differentiators of ODVA, is the esprit de corps of collaboration between its member companies. You think about bringing competitors together and getting to collaborate. What is really unique about that? Normally that's frowned upon. Because it's a collaboration of competitors, antitrust laws can come into effect. But what ODVA does and these other organizations do is provide a safe haven for that collaboration to occur. So in terms of the user's interest in having multi-vendor interoperability standards. These organizations, ODVA of course included, are essential to driving that going forward. In terms of our technical scope, it is networks, but networks have been proven and established for the management of field devices. So today we focus much more on application space. The ODVA technologies cover the traditional control areas, but also information, network diagnostics and management, motion, synchronization, safety, energy, all of those. From a business value for the user community, I would say there's 3 different areas that ODVA technologies are differentiated on. The ecosystem of vendors that we bring to this space, diversity of products. There's over 1,500 vendors that have made and sold products that comply with ODVA technologies. And also in terms of the technical focus of the organization, while we are really focused on an industrial protocol and solving applications for the industrial space, one of the key components of that is leveraging commercial off-the-shelf technologies, including standard and modified Ethernet and Internet technologies for application in industrial spaces. So that puts ODVA in a very unique position going forward, in particular Ethernet IP, to leverage the intersection of technology and demographic trends around Ethernet going forward, including lower cost devices, leveraging the training that people have on using Internet and Ethernet technologies in their daily lives, but deploying that on the factory floor. So thank you very much.
Carl?
Okay. My name's Carl Henning. I'm the Deputy Director for PI North America. We're the organization in North America that supports Profibus and Profinet. We are one of 27 regional associations around the globe that do that, part of a larger group of associated companies that also do certified testing, certified training, and provide competence centers. I think there's like 50 of them around the world now to provide local assistance to users with the Profibus and Profinet technologies. I think there's really 3 things that we try to do as our mission. First of all, obviously, is to create and maintain the standards. Secondly, and maybe this is more important for this local user community, is our ability to educate people about the technologies. We do that in a lot of different ways. Thirdly, we exist to assist vendors who have not yet put Profibus or Profinet into their products to be able to do that. And there are, of course, many ways for them to be able to do that. When it comes to the scope of the technologies, I look at this as having two dimensions here. It has a breadth and a depth. When it comes to the breadth, we cover the application spaces of discrete automation, process automation, and motion control. So actually all 3 of those. And if you start to look at the depth, we do things like functional safety, energy management, identification and maintenance, application profiles, a lot of different things that really provide things that happen in the background for the most part, but are there to help the users. One of the suggestions that Harry made to talk about was the differentiators for the organization. I'm not going to talk about the differentiators for the technology because probably time doesn't permit, and we would have to fight with all the people up here on the panel. But from the organizational standpoint, I think one of the things we do really well is educate. We do that obviously through the web, through newsletters, through webinars, free one-day training classes. We'll do about 18 of those around the U.S. This year. We have certified network engineer training classes to help people really understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. And one of the things that we do see as we try to lead people away from doing point-to-point wiring is the need to recognize that this is different. And so we do have to educate people on what those differences are. So those are the kinds of things that I think make up the strengths of PI.
Carl, thank you very much. Larry?
Yeah, Larry O'Brien, Marketing Manager for the Fieldbus Foundation. We are a standards organization, much like HART and much like FDT and a bunch of the other groups up here. We continue to drive the Fieldbus Foundation specification forward. I guess we're kind of the stewards of the Foundation Fieldbus spec. That means we're responsible for driving it forward. We're responsible for embracing new technologies as they come along and as they become relevant, and we want to incorporate them into our spec. We do quite a bit of our own testing and registration of both devices and host systems. We have close to 1,000 tested and registered devices now at the Foundation. We have many, many registered host systems. We do a lot of training. Right now we have 8 certified training centers around the world that we've worked with to ensure quality and consistency in training. Just about all these are educational institutions, so we're training a lot of new operators and maintenance technicians on how to use this new digital technology, for the future. We find that a lot of the younger workers have are really well adapted to using digital network technology. So we're really trying to get out there and train some of these new workers out there in the world today. I guess one of the key differences that we have compared to some of the other protocols out there, we are completely digital. We were actually built from the bottom up to address the requirements of the process automation industry. It was really the end users that developed the Foundation Fieldbus specification way back in the days of the ISA SB50 committee and so on. So it's really an end user driven standard. We have a very strong end user advisory council. Actually, John Rezebek here is the chairperson of that end user advisory council. We have representatives from all over the world that are members of that council. I guess probably the most recent thing that we've been working on actually is trying to integrate and and play better with some of the other organizations that are up here. Our new technology is called Foundation for Remote Operations Management, and that allows us to integrate to some of the existing wireless networks that are out there, such as ISA 100.11a and wireless HART, and also wired HART. So we now have the capability to integrate to some of those other networks, as well as conventional remote I/O. And we also have a partnership with ISA on the ISA 100.15 committee. They're working on wireless and wired backhaul network technology. So that's like the long-distance backhaul networks that, for example, go from a remote location to a central control room. So we're working pretty closely with ISA to develop that specification. And we're also working closely with the ISA 108 committee, which, as I mentioned in my question earlier, we're trying to develop some standard templates for work processes and best practices that allow end users to really take advantage of all this intelligent diagnostic data that's coming out of these intelligent field devices. And we see that as a real issue today. A lot of information. We've got a fire hose of information. The users aren't very well prepared in many cases to take advantage of that information. They need help. And I think it's really our goal, really all of us here, to help them. So that's all I'll say.
Herman?
Okay, I'm Herman Storey, and I retired as an end user a few years ago and decided to continue work, basically to take care of some unfinished business from my 42 years at Shell. And I decided to do it in an open standards arena rather than in a foundation. And I think there is a lot of good work that can be done in both environments. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and it all works best when we collaborate. And so we're trying to do that with the committees that I chair. I have 2 committees in ISA, ISA 100, which is Wireless Systems for Automation, and I also co-chair the ISA 108 committee, which is Intelligent Device Management. They're working differently. 100 was formed to integrate some technologies that were available and to fill in some gaps in technologies. So we're doing a lot of technology development. The backhaul standard that we developed, that Larry just mentioned, was done in collaboration with Fieldbus Foundation, IEEE, the Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF. We worked with the Trusted Computing Group. Large group of people had contributed to this, and we got a very wide variety of input from people in the oil business, people in aerospace, people everywhere else. We actually shared an editor from Boeing with the Trusted Computing Group on their IF map standard. So a high degree of collaboration, pushed forward some new technology. We illustrated how to use the ISA 99 security model for zones and conduits in a wireless backhaul, so we can connect together systems that are widely separated or close together in a plant, across a mountain, a desert, an ocean, wherever. Interesting piece of technology. In doing that, we'd also noted that we needed to develop common network management, which we are now working on, started up a new group to do common network management. We have a lot of different networks that are all managed independently, and wireless networks are all managed. Wired networks sometimes kind of manage themselves, but wireless ones are unmanaged, are managed. And so each network comes with its own management system. We want a common way to manage all of those in a common environment. 108 has a different focus, and it's very work process oriented. We are trying to develop the work processes to use with intelligent devices for things like configuration management. We want to improve the way that's done. A lot of the work processes now focus on single parameter entry, and our work processes that use those, our work that uses that process ends up with high error rates and some unmanaged risk. We want to improve that so that we have good configuration management over the life cycle of an installation, which can be multi-generational, long years. And we want to also utilize that configuration to maximize the benefits of diagnostics. So we want to develop some diagnostic work processes that can be used by industry to take advantage of all of these diagnostics in an effective way. Right now, a lot of the utilization of diagnostics depends on end users taking a lot of initiative to develop their own processes, tools, integrate things together, and we would like to give users some help with that and share the work processes. So,
Thank you, Herman. Okay, I would be happy to open the session up to questions from the floor. If somebody has a question from the floor. If not, as always, the analyst has a question. So, okay, I'll ask the first question then, John. I already got a microphone. So, as I look on your organizations, folks, certainly I think in every case, every effort that you represent and have talked about, in many cases, they're direct and very strong competitors collaborating in your organization. Every single one, I can think of some cases. I can also think of some cases where you've succeeded in getting those suppliers to work together, to collaborate together. Other times, the effort has been less than successful. So from your perspective, everybody doesn't have to answer, but I wonder if there are keys that you find that would help suppliers to collaborate more effectively in the standards and interoperability area, or also on the other side, if there are issues that you think contribute to the times when those efforts fail. Anybody want to pick that one up? I know.
I woke up there. I think one of the things that is beneficial to bringing vendors into the technology is providing them an easy path to adding the technology to their products. And I think that's one of the strengths of our organization, is that we have dozens of different development tool providers, everything from chips to software stacks to modules that allow a vendor to find an easy way. If he's got just a couple of devices and he doesn't sell many of them, he can use a module. If he's got a lot of devices, he can embed a chip in it that's got the software stack embedded in it. So I think that's one of the things that we can do to to try to help encourage people to adopt the technologies.
I can
You go
comment
ahead.
on this.
Please do.
We want to think about where standards fit into all of this. We're actually part of the innovation adoption process for new technologies. And the question, the challenge for an organization like ODVA is to be a part of that process early on. So we need to be at the very beginning of the innovation, at the interest phase among vendors where there's an interest in doing something, but they haven't done it. So, as we, look at new opportunities for standardization, what we want to do is get to people before there's a lot of field installations. But the challenge for that sometimes is, if you're dealing especially in a vendor organization, is where's the market? So I think one of the things this group can do is be clearer, the user group community can be clearer about where their areas of interest are for standardization in the future, because that's one of the things that vendors really respond to is where's the market opportunity. So it's a real balance of getting people to work on something before they have products so that there is an opportunity for standardization, but knowing where that opportunity is. So we try to get better and better at judging that, but this is a good forum for helping us be able to make an assessment.
Larry, you.
Well, after being an analyst for a lot of years, I learned one very valuable lesson, and that is, automation technology isn't worth much unless there really is an economic, value proposition behind it. And then once you can articulate that value proposition, particularly from the user standpoint, right? If you want to get competitors to work together, the best way to do that is from pressure from the end users, from their customers. If they see value in something and they see that a technology, is going to provide them with an economic return, then they will demand it, and that will create, pressure on the vendors, and the vendors will, create technologies, that address those issues and then provide that value proposition. And it's always been my experience, and I think that's one of the big reasons why we have our End User Advisory Council, why we have so much end user involvement at the foundation. Is because they see the value. They want to keep realizing more value. So it really comes down to the users, to the manufacturers out there that are working with this technology, on a day-to-day basis. They know what's going on in their plants. They know where the value is, ultimately.
Anybody else? Herman, is there something you... I don't want to put you on the spot, Herman, but I just, your perspective is a little different working in the outside of consortiums.
Yeah, I've worked both in and out, so I've seen both sides. There's different legal frameworks for open standards versus foundations, and that leads to different results. In open standards, you have this chaotic, anybody can participate, wide open forum, and there's no secrets, but IP ownership may be a little weak. You have to stay away from business practices and things like that. So get very broad input, really creative, really nice for that, but we don't bring it all the way to nice, interoperable, tested, certified product. We can't. In the foundations, you can take it a lot further and you can manage IP issues, I think, a lot better. But you don't get as broad a participation. You may miss out on some things. And that's why I particularly like the way we did the backhaul technology, where we had a cooperative agreement between ISA and the Fieldbus Foundation. They're doing field trials and a lot of development that's well beyond the scope of a standard, and provided a lot of good input to the standard development. But in ISA, we were able to bring in a lot of people that were not in the Fieldbus Foundation and help move that forward. Got a lot of good user requirements into it from a variety of industries. So I think it's best if we can work together on that rather than each try to do our own thing separately.
Ron, you got your hand on the microphone?
Well, I just want to comment a little bit. I think clearly with any standards, I mean, it's got to be broadly supported or it's not a standard, right? It only becomes a standard when it's broadly supported across products from many companies, kind of as Katherine was talking about. It's got to fit the market need and it's got to be supported by that. I think we've been pretty successful in HART Communication Foundation, probably more successful than people realize with our program. And if we don't, there's nothing we can do that's going to motivate a supplier to come in and say, I want to get committed and provide HART products. That's driven by the user demand, okay? But once they do, our program, and I think if somebody comes into our program and joins the HART Communication Foundation, comes to our meetings where we have 3 meetings a year, and the members come, we have a core group of members that come there, just like with any standards organization. I mean, they're set up very similar, the same way. Of course, all of the people that come, they're very focused on HART. Our programs are very focused on HART and evolving that, improving that technology in a way, as I said, that's so it is backward compatible. It's going to be interoperable, and it's simple and easy to use. But people are amazed when they come in. I think most of the representatives from the companies, new companies that come in, they're amazed by how cooperative this group of very active competitors are. And I think one of the ways that is, I mean, we're not meeting at any one particular supplier's location. We meet at various locations all around the world. Let me say, in a neutral environment. We do provide a very neutral forum so that, and assure that anybody that wants to participate gets their voice and then can influence the standard. So it's worked very, very well. I think that maybe it's a little less chaotic than what Herman was talking about because we're focused from that perspective. We don't have the disruption, and we can manage the disruption somewhat if it does surface and keep it productive. But overall, I think it's a pretty good process from that standpoint.